It's Sunday the 29th of January 2017, and you are listening to the Paul Clark Podcast. So I wasn't planning to watch any news and current affairs this weekend. I wasn't planning to be politically active at all this weekend. I was going to have a politics-free couple of days. But then Donald Trump does what Donald Trump does, which is completely take you by surprise. He likes to pull the rug out from under you, and basically has begun plans that will start in earnest, I believe, to bring about a ban on certain Muslims from entering the United States. Now, this was something that goes back to quite early on in his campaign when he was running to be president of the United States. And everyone thought, including myself, if I'm being honest, that he didn't have a hope in hell's chance of winning. You know, he was going up against the corrupt mainstream media. He was going up against, he was going up against everything. He took on the establishment and he won. So, but he said quite early on, following the awful events in Paris, that if he were to win, if he were to obtain power, he would bring about a ban on Muslims from entering the United States. Well, that created a nuclear chain reaction. The liberal media, all the liberals, all the libtards out there, they all went into meltdown over this. They all went into meltdown because nothing gets their backs up. Nothing gets liberals' backs up quicker than what they perceive as racist, bigoted views aimed towards the religion of Islam. And just as a side note here, you have to ask yourself why that is. And I think I mentioned this in one of my previous podcasts a few days ago when talking about Madonna. People like Madonna, liberals like her, and liberals all over, don't see a problem with having a bunch of radical jihadists. Don't see a problem with having radical extremist Islam out there. And don't see a problem with allowing them to come either to the United States or the United Kingdom or France or Germany. I mean, in the case of Germany, you only have to look at that idiot that they've got in charge, Frau Merkel. She had a complete open border policy. She just let everybody in. And that's why you've had some just appalling acts of crime and terrorism out there, you know, in recent years, because that woman is a disgrace. She's probably the worst leader on the world stage right now. She's just an idiot. She's just a complete and utter idiot. But people like her, people like Barack Obama, people like Jeremy Corbyn, you know, people like Madonna, people with these libtard lefty views. Remember what I've always said, there's nothing more illiberal than a liberal. They believe in complete open borders and just letting everybody in. And they certainly don't perceive that radical Islam is a threat. So when Donald Trump is standing to be president, one of the things he says quite early on is, no, not having any more of this. Not having any more of this. Not having what's happened in Paris happen in my country. So I'm going to put a ban on Muslims. If I win, there's going to be a ban on Muslims entering the United States. It sounds perfectly reasonable to me. But here is the problem. This is such a minefield of a topic. You have to be so careful when you talk about this. And you've got to make sure that you don't leave any stone unturned here. So it's very important that you listen to what I'm saying as well, because I'm sure there are liberals out there that would love nothing more than to misrepresent me. And you see what the mainstream media are like with Trump. They misrepresent him on every single thing. You know, I said previously that the guy could cure cancer and famine and plague and world poverty, and they still would misrepresent him. They still wouldn't give him any credit. So people love the liberal media, liberals. Remember, nothing more illiberal than a liberal. They like to misrepresent you. They like to make you out to be something that you're not. And I'm not a racist, I'm not a bigot, I'm certainly not Islamophobic. What I am, however, is concerned and worried for the security and the safety of my country. Because make no mistakes, these Muslims hate us just as much as they hate America. They hate Western society full stop. So placing a ban on them seems like a very reasonable thing for me. We know the kind of countries where radical Islam hails from. The Middle East. Places like Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iraq, Syria. It seems perfectly reasonable to me that you would bring down the shutters and you would try and reduce the amount of Muslims from those countries entering the United States. But the media, of course, won't portray it like that. The media will portray it as he wants to ban Muslims from all over. He wants to ban Muslims from the United Kingdom. He wants to ban Muslims from all across Europe. He wants to ban, civilized Muslims. It's amazing the way people, the liberal media, like to misrepresent this guy. And I once asked my friend, I said, look, why do people fall for it every time with the media? Why do they fall for it every time? Why do they believe it? And he replied with the perfect response you could actually get, really, which is, look, Paul, not everyone is like us. Not everyone, has the time on their hands to actually think and consider this stuff. Most people get in after a hard day at the office. They get in, they plump themselves down in front of the telly with their fish and chips, or their pizza, or their Indian takeaway, and they sit there and they watch the news, and they're not really necessarily paying attention. They're not even really absorbing necessarily what is going on. But then the next day when they get back to the office and they're sat around the water cooler, or they're standing around the water cooler, the subject of Trump comes up. What do you think of Trump's recent comment on Muslims? Oh, he's a racist, he's terrible, he's this and that. And they start repeating the things that were put in front of them last night when they were having their fish and chips and their Indian takeaway. They start repeating exactly what the likes of Evan Davis on Newsnight or the BBC's political correspondent Laura Kuenssberg said. And it's not even that they actually necessarily listened to it at the time, but it does soak in, and the brain does pick up on these things, and then it executes those things in conversation when the time is right. And they end up just repeating what Laura Kuenssberg on BBC News 24 said. And they probably don't even know they're doing it. They think it's their own opinions. But they're doing it. What do you think on Trump's Muslim ban? Oh, it's terrible, racist, bigot, he should be blown up. Madonna should blow up the White House, he's a bigot, he's all this and that. He's not. It's reasonable to ban Muslims from certain countries. But he's not talking about the United Kingdom. He's not talking about France or Germany or any civilized country. But of course, in our own country, we have these Muslims from Syria, from Pakistan and Iraq and Afghanistan. They're already here. And there's nothing we can do about it. Most of them have probably applied for citizenship of the United Kingdom. Now, this is slightly where I disagree with Trump, though. And this is where, for me, he went a little bit too far, I think. Shot himself in the foot a little bit. Not only does he want to keep a watchful eye, and rightly so, on the Muslims entering the United States from these countries like Iraq, Syria, and Pakistan, and so on. He also wants to do a review of the green card system. Now, the green card is something that basically enables anybody who wants to work and live in the United States to have the right to do that. With a green card, they have the right to have a life and work in America. Something that I'm looking into myself, by the way. Believe me. But Trump and the administration of Trump, I believe, are going to possibly start reviewing this, and possibly it could lead to making the whole process a lot more bureaucratic, wrapping it up in a lot more red tape, Now, I can see both sides to this, because you have to remember that it's not all just illegal immigrants, illegal Muslims entering the United States that are, driving vans into crowds of people. It's not just, illegal Muslims. It wasn't even illegal Muslims that flew the aeroplanes into the World Trade Center or the Pentagon. They actually had American visas. So, of course, that certainly needs looking at, because, how do you know what someone's motives is? How do they know that when Paul and Alex go to New York on July 8th, that we're not going to, fly an aeroplane into the White House or something? Now, of course, I wouldn't do that. My name's not Madonna. But, you don't know. Obviously, you can tell by racial profiling, which I think is a good thing, because that's a good indication, and you can sort of have a rough idea. Although it's not 100%. Of course, nothing is 100%. But you can sort of go, okay, based on past experience, who are the people that are most likely to commit a terrorist attack? White guys, white male, or ethnic Muslim males. Well, of course, there'd be no point in them stopping me or Alex going through security at JFK Airport, and searching us for bombs, because we don't look like the kind of people that are gonna, basically carry a bomb and blow up flight number 78 or something. But of course, you look at a Muslim and you profile him and you think, okay, he potentially could be the kind of guy we're looking for. And that's how racial profiling works. And my argument is look, the vast majority of Muslims are decent, law-abiding citizens, so they haven't done anything wrong. So, it's like, well, they've got nothing to worry about. That's my argument to that. But the visa thing, the green card thing, how do they know when you're applying for citizenship of the United States that you're harbouring terrorist views? Because you're hardly going to say it in the interview, are you? You're hardly going to turn around and say, yes, I'm planning in flying an aeroplane into the World Trade Center. They're not going to say that. So, to put further restrictions or make the green card system and the American visa system a lot more difficult and wrap it up in further red tape, I only see that as hurting the United States, if I'm being completely honest with you. So I think that might be a step too far for me. That might be a step too far for Trump and his administration. But it's obviously, it's something that you can understand. You can understand that many people in civilized countries are concerned about the influx of illegal immigration coming into their countries, and in particular the influx of Muslims coming in to the country. It's a very thorny issue, and you have to be so careful, as I said, when you talk about this. One of the things I like about Trump is he's like a bull in the china shop, and he doesn't care. He doesn't care. He'll just dive straight in there. But on this particular one, look, we know that liberals are intolerant. As I said, nothing more liberal than a liberal. Liberals are very intolerant people, and liberals don't believe in facts. Liberals just believe in being outraged and offended and upset. And if you give them a hand, they'll take an entire arm off of you. So I think, as far as the Muslim ban goes, I would just say to him to be very careful, very thought out and very considered and precise, and of course he will be. He's got the right team around him that can, that can worry about all those things like image and PR and stuff. Not that it makes any difference, because, the media will never represent Trump fairly and honestly. But it's a very thorny issue, this, and it is a minefield and something you have to be very careful of. I'm sure I've said stuff in this that will probably offend some Muslims, so I'll probably end up getting myself shot tomorrow. But, let me know your comments on this. Are you with it? Are you against it? Does the Muslim ban work? Will it not work? Let me know your thoughts and feelings. Thanks for listening to the Pork Lot Podcast.